with a right hand injury. Bucks forward Giannis Antetokounmpo dealing with a back contusion. He was upgraded to questionable for tonight's Game 2 against Miami earlier today. They'll tip off from Milwaukee at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. T-Wolves and Nuggets play their Game 2 in Denver at 10 o'clock Eastern. In Major League Baseball, New York Mets pitcher Max Scherzer tossed in the fourth inning of today's game after a sticky substance was found on his glove as they take on the Dodgers. Right now it's 5-3 Mets in the bottom of the ninth inning in L.A. Some finals from earlier. Cardinals outscored the Diamondbacks 14-5. Rangers sweep the Royals 12-3, while the Rays won in Cincinnati 8-0. Tiger Woods underwent surgery on his ankle. No timetable for his return to action. I'm Dan Beyer.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Well, hello everyone. Welcome. I think it's Tuesday or is it Wednesday? I can't remember what day of the week it is suddenly. But there's some Utah State news. We're like in going on late April. And there's still news that keeps breaking. Like it just goes to show just how much of a year-round sport basketball and football are in the ability to cover these and not just spend like 6 months out of the year just speculating. There's still plenty of speculation happening, but we do have some news. It came out, how many minutes ago? It was reported that Rylan Jones has entered the transfer portal. Trying to see exactly. It was within the last hour that I saw. Yeah, about 40 minutes ago. So Utah State, they've now lost 9 players to either graduation or in some cases just moving on. For instance, Trevin Dorius, he has a year of eligibility, but he's just moving on. Dan Atkin, Taylor Funk, RJ Idlerock, all leaving because they have no more eligibility. Then you lose Stephen Ashworth, Shimon Zapala, Max Shulga, Sean Bairstow, and now Rylan Jones to the transfer portal. So just about everybody. So at this point, I kind of had to qualify some of my talking points when I was saying like Utah State losing like their top 8 rotation players, except Rylan Jones was a rotation player and they hadn't lost him, and had he not missed like the last half of the season, he would have been one of the top 8 rotation players. But now that's the case. Basically the only returner who played real minutes last season is Z Hamoda. That's all that's left. We'll see if he stays around. He's certainly got a great opportunity if he wants to stick around. He's a guy that I'm sure Danny Sprinkle can trust to fill a rotation spot. We'll see if maybe he can start. That'll depend on what improvements he can make. He showed improvements from freshman year to sophomore year. We know he still had a bit of a rocky season at times. But if those improvements continue from year 2 to year 3, Z Hamoda is going to be a good player. He already, in his freshman year, he wasn't even a good shooter. And then suddenly he was a mid-30s% shooter, I think. A pretty decent shooter last year and a really good defender. I think the main issue people had is that maybe he tried to do a bit too much and he hasn't developed his ball handling to be a true perimeter threat. But, aside from that, I think he's a pretty solid player. But, losing Rylan Jones in his situation was interesting. Because, with him, with the injuries, this is something that's surely had a lot of thought gone into it. Like, should Rylan Jones even keep playing basketball with a history of concussions? Would he be able to play a full season? There's just a lot that I'm sure went into this decision, whether or not he should stay at Utah State, whether or not he's healthy enough to keep playing basketball. I know for a fact that Rylan Jones wants to keep playing basketball. And I guess he figured it would be better if he went somewhere else. And in the end with Rylan Jones, this whole situation, for me, a lot of what I do right now in reporting, I'm counting roster spots and counting players and, how many spots to fill, playing, what could rotations look like with, these guys playing this many minutes. And I know the roster is incomplete, but, trying to project things. But every time I get to Rylan Jones, it's like, it feels wrong to just think of him as a roster spot, or as, because this is a guy that, become really worried about. I've grown really worried about his health long term. Which, for a guy that I've only had a couple of conversations with ever, it's kind of weird to become that concerned about somebody. But I wish him the best. I hope Rylan Jones is able to finish his career in a way that's satisfying to him. But at the same time, you got to prioritize health. And so there's a very real possibility Rylan Jones has played his last competitive basketball. And that may be for the best. But if he can find a storybook ending, I think we'll all root for him. So this transfer feels a lot different than some of the others. Because we're all pulling for Rylan no matter what happens. The feelings are a bit more mixed with Stephen Ashworth, Sean Berso, and Max Shulga. Feelings are a bit mixed. But anyway, welcome to the show. Eric Frandsen is actually back in the house. He had stepped away from. He's about to step in though. Speak of the devil, he's back. Turn his mic on. But yeah, you abandoned me. Is that what I am? I'm the devil. You abandoned me for like 2.5 days.
I know. Sorry. Well, spending time in Las Vegas, you come back feeling a little bit like that. Yeah, sorry.
What did you do in Vegas?
So there's an annual it's called the NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, and they hold a convention every year at this time, and haven't gone for a few years because of COVID. Just they canceled it one year, and then we debated if it was even value to go the following year. But anyway, went down this year. Usually try to get down there every year, and lots of different exhibitors, people from different microphones and mic stands to TV cameras to streaming and podcasting, cinema. I mean, it's huge convention hall full of stuff. So walked around the convention center for 2 days, had some forums, participated in some events, and then, made the long drive home. So.
Yeah, it's a drive I've made a handful of times. Sometimes riding on a bus. This year I made that drive myself, but.
Oh, that's right. We sent you down there for the basketball team.
Yeah, I know. It's just part of my job. How do you forget that? Anyway, So welcome back, Eric. A handful of things happened while you were gone.
So I've heard.
Yeah. Well, Stephen Ashworth committed to Creighton. Like 3 more football players entered the portal. Utah State got a recruit in basketball and in football, actually, as well. Got a JUCO defensive lineman. So... yeah, a few things happened. Had Jim Lobb in the building.
Ah, how was that?
This was a lot of fun. We had him on for like the whole first hour of yesterday's
show. It's great.
Show.
He's been on before. He's been very kind to come on and been a friend of the program. So I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just we had the fun guests on. We had Jason Walker on while you were gone. The other Jason Walker. Then we had Jim Lobb. Next time I'm just going to have like Tom Brady on.
Yeah, there you go.
This next time you go, I'm going to put it out there and ask Tom Brady to come on my show.
You got nothing else to do, right?
He's not busy anymore. Be amazing if I could, but I have no really good way to contact him other than just try and add him on Twitter. Be like, hey, at Tom Brady, you want to come on my radio show?
I'm sure that's going to work.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. We've got some text coming in on the text line. If you guys want to join in, 435-339-0321. Heckle Eric for all the time he's missed the last few weeks.
From that time that I was down in Mexico, and then I come home and I'm gone again for a few days. So
yeah, You gonna leave me again, like in a week or two?
I should start making plans.
This is that time of year, like April to July. Like that's when we need to do all of our vacationing. I know, like when I first came on as a co-host, like you immediately started making plans to go somewhere.
It's like, oh, I finally get some relief.
Yeah, I know. You finally didn't have to be solo on the mic all the time.
But then you come and you're like, oh, I'm going to start, but I'm going to go, actually.
Yeah, I know. I was
You were the one.
I was here for like a week, and then I went to a family reunion, came back, and got like horribly sick. And so when you did leave, I was hacking into the mic.
Good times.
Yeah, so that's all that. But let's get to the text line.
Yeah, 435-339-0321, 2305. And it sounds like you alluded to this at the top of the hour, but this may be a good reason to reset because 2305 is asking the question. I've been out of the loop. Have you heard of any basketball players committing to USU yet? Could you tell us about them?
So there's one who's committed. There are others that I've heard that are in the pipeline, that are on visits. Some of those names are out in the public. I know Darius Brown, it said he's going to come visit, and I think a couple others. I think Dawson Baker is coming for a visit. There are others. It's not just those two. There are plenty that are coming. A lot of them are guards, actually. But the one who committed, his name is Nigel Burris. I don't know if you've gotten to look into him.
Just that he was played in Idaho.
Yeah.
With the Vandals.
So I'm currently neck deep in my newcomer player preview. I'll be coming out with that soon. It'll have all of the newcomers that we know of so far that have committed. That'll include 4 high schoolers and Nigel Burris. It's like at 1,200 words at the moment, and I've got like 2 players to go. So that'll be it'll be a breakdown of each player, show some basic stats, a little bit about them, what kind of player they are. But to give it to you that on the air, I'm not going to direct you to an article that I haven't published yet for that information. But Nigel Burris, he's a 6'7" power forward, could eventually become a combo forward. That's something that remains to be seen, and I'm kind of be keeping my eye on. And I'll get, as I watch more and more film and whatnot, he's a guy that can be a versatile forward. He's an incredible shooter. Something I mentioned on yesterday's show is that, as a freshman, he had an effective field goal percentage of like 63.2%. And this is as a three-point shooter. It's often hard for perimeter players to have an effective field goal percentage in the 60s. Some players can. For instance, Stephen Ashworth was at 62 last year. If you're a really good three-point shooter and a really effective shooter, you can have an effective field goal percentage above 60. For those who don't know, it's basically it's kind of a calculation where you're combining field goal and three-point percentage and like weighting three-pointers slightly higher. So it's kind of in the name, effective field goal percentage, trying to add some context to how much you shoot. But still, when you shoot a ton of three-pointers, you shoot a lower field goal percentage. And Nigel Burris, he shot nearly 45% from 3, and so it leads to him shooting 63% as a freshman. And since 1992, he's one of 14 players who, as freshmen, had an effective field goal percentage above 63%, qualified for as a certain number of field goal attempts and three-point attempts.
Wow.
So basically, for his style of player, a guy who shoots a lot of threes and just a lot of shots overall, at least for a freshman, he's very unique in his efficiency. That's the long and short of it. There's a lot of words and it's hard to say all this calculation out loud because you get lost in numbers and qualifying and stuff like that. It comes out a little bit better in my article, but the long and short of it is this guy, for a freshman, was historically efficient as a perimeter shooter. And you look at all the different kinds of shots he takes. He takes shots, he's a good transition scorer. He's a good spot-up shooter. He's good at getting offensive rebounds and then putbacks. He's efficient on those putbacks. He's efficient when he's cutting to the basket. It's not just the fact that, he shoots a bunch of threes and he makes them. He makes a bunch of different shots. So he's a very effective shooter in a lot of different ways. He's not really an on-ball creator. That's probably the one thing where you can say he's limited offensively. But he was a freshman last year. That's something that can come with time. So for now, he's a bit more of an off-ball guy. Off-ball spot-up shooter. Off-ball, pass to him and cut. He'll grab an offensive rebound and put it back. And he'll be incredibly efficient in that. And he'll continue to grow from that. So that's Nigel Burris at the moment.
Nice. There was a report, the Portal report, shared on Twitter earlier today, said Montana State transfer Great Osbar. He has received interest from a number of schools. It's an interesting mix. Utah State's on the list, as you would suspect, because his coach is here now. And he's also leaving open the opportunity to stay with Montana State. But Utah State's in the mix with schools like Georgia, Penn State, Bowling Green, Buffalo. So it's an interesting mix of some P5, some mid-major, some non-mid-major. So it's an interesting collection. But there's, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 teams, 12, 14 teams that are showing interest in him.
Yeah, so the former Montana State guys, there's, three of them in the portal. Raekwon Battle, Darius Brown, and Great Osbar. They're all getting some pretty good attention. Raekwon Battle's getting the most, and he's probably the one least likely to end up at Utah State. I'd expect Utah State to be at least among the favorites to land Osbar and Brown, and they both be pretty good gets. I've raved over Darius Brown previously on the show and on Twitter, how he's basically the perfect point guard in terms of the fact that he basically has everything. He's good at everything. Except, I guess, if you want to nitpick, he's not a volume scorer. That's like the one thing he doesn't do. But he's a crazy efficient shooter. He was the defensive player of the year in his conference as a guard. It's hard to be a guard, a 6'2" guard, and win defensive player of the year. Usually they hand it to rim protectors or like a 6'6" wing.
Or, big players on the perimeter in the low post.
Yeah. So he won that as a guard. And he's a decent rebounder, 4.5 rebounds a game, averages 4.5 assists. He only had 1.6 turnovers per game. I was running the numbers earlier today. He's one of 4 players in all of college basketball last year who I think it was more than 160 assists and fewer than 60 turnovers. One of 4 players to accomplish that. So lots of assists. He was second in the Big Sky in assists per game. And he had, 1.2, 1.3 turnovers per game. Really great assist-to-turnover ratio. So he'd be in contention, maybe one of the best players on the team from the moment he stepped on campus. But he's not here yet.
No.
He's certainly considering Utah State, but he's getting good attention. Some from some Power 5 schools. Although Nigel Burris, he was getting attention from Washington State and Oregon State. Power 6 schools. Some other Mountain West schools. And he chose Utah State. So just because there's, major conference teams looking at a guy doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go there.
Yeah, very true. Because how you fit in, what's your role, what's your relationship with the coach, it can be very different.
And so certainly Sprinkle is going to have a good relationship with Brown and with Osbar. And I think Osbar, he could be interesting because he's like a small ball 5. Think of a Dan Atkin type, where height-wise, maybe you think of a power forward, but their skill set and their play style might be more cut out for a center. And Osbar is due for an increase in minutes and role because he spent the last 2 seasons as a 6th man. He was actually 6th man of the year in the Big Sky last year. So, and he was doing it because he was sitting behind the guy who was the player of the year last year. That was the reason he was on the bench. It's because the guy in front of him on the depth chart was the player of the year in the Big Sky. But he's due for an increase. He played 20-something minutes per game, low 20s, and he still averaged 10 points, 5 assists, or 5 rebounds, and almost a block per game.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and Nigel Burris, he was the Big Sky Freshman of the Year. So if you manage to land Brown, Osbar, and Burris, you get half the Big Sky Player of the Year award winners. If you get Raekwon Battle, you'd add the tournament MVP. I don't know who the newcomer of the year was, if they even have that. You can't get Player of the Year because he graduated. But You can just monopolize the Big Sky Players of the Year and bring them to Utah State. I don't know how I'd feel about that, but it would be kind of weird.
It would be a good start, at least, in putting a roster together.
Yeah, at least you're putting the best players from a lower conference here. But the thing is, each one of those players individually, when you look at them, they're good players. Like I said, Brown, he'd be, a wonderful piece. Osbar, he'd be a great piece down low. You grab Nigel Burris, he's a developing, already good piece, can develop into more. If you get Raekwon Battle, that's kind of the one thing Utah State has been missing in terms of guys they're targeting and guys they've maybe brought in, is they're missing a guy who can be the lead on offense. Raekwon Battle averaged 17, almost 18 points a game last year. The guys they've brought in, Nigel Burris ain't doing that. Darius Brown, if they landed him, wouldn't get that. Osbar wouldn't do that. Dawson Baker, another guy they're looking at, could maybe do that. But they're kind of missing a lead scorer. And so while they're bringing guys in, that'll be something to keep an eye on. Can they bring one of those kind of guys in?
9315. Where is Eric, or did he enter the radio transfer portal?
Yeah, have you went to the transfer portal?
No.
He had a text actually right before that.
Oh, I'm right down the middle on Rylan Jones entering the transfer portal due to all the injury history.
Yeah, that was something that did you see that before coming here?
No.
Oh, he's in the transfer portal now.
Oh.
As of like 40 minutes ago. Actually, about an hour ago now, probably.
See, part of the problem of going away is like you're out of the mix, and then when you come back, you have so much stuff that's stacked up, you're still out of the mix. And that's been me, unfortunately, today.
It happens. Like I said, you got...
you know what? For Rylan, it'd be great if he could stay. I think he's got great leadership. I think this is a roster that needs some stability. But at the same time, I can't fault him. It's coaching change. Unsure about where he sits. If he's going to be stealing a roster spot or a scholarship from somebody who is going to be available and will likely play more games, that might be tough. So I'm mixed. I see the value in having him stay, but I can't fault him for leaving, and there'd be maybe an opportunity for him to go somewhere else.
Yeah, he's a guy who really wants to play, but I was saying earlier before you came in is that like you do worry about a little bit about if he's going to play. And I don't like just saying, oh, he's stealing a roster spot, but in reality, that is something that you would have to consider is if he plays next year, he's very likely to get hurt again. And that would be the end of his career. The next concussion, that's the end of his career. Nobody's going to be willing to play him again because they're not going to be the one that sent him out there
right
to get a permanent brain damage. And there's probably some that might think that way now that they don't want to send him out there. And maybe Utah State was in that camp. But I don't know, it's just you want a guy to be able to have the ending that he wants, but not everybody gets the ending they want.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And I think all of Aggie Nation were kind of hoping if Rylan Jones could have come back and played the kind of role he was doing at the beginning of the year, every Aggie fan would want him back. But I don't think there was a belief that he was going to be able to do that.
Yeah. No.
Just because of that injury history. And so that's when you begin thinking, all right, there's a roster spot for a guy that we're not sure is going to be able to go out there. But in the end, like for me at this point, I'm just worried about whether or not he's going to still be healthy when he gets into his 30s because of decisions he's making in his 20s.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Eric into the radio transfer portal. No. What kind of collective does the Radio Ranch have to keep Eric there? Also, crazy to think Z is the vet starting player on the team right now.
Yeah, he's, I think, the longest tenured player. And he's been here, 3 years? I don't think anybody else has been here longer than a year. Is there anybody else on the roster that's been here longer than a year?
The Shimon is gone?
Yeah, he's gone. Isaac Johnson, Mason Falslev, we're both here for just the 1 year so far. I think maybe some of the walk-ons, but I don't know how many of the walk-ons are still going to be here, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it. Those two were buddies. Yeah. Connor Odom, Connor Gillis.
Yeah, we'll
They're
see.
going back east.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Might already be back east.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Yeah, the whole roster is going to be interesting, and I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board now in a couple of ways. Because, like I said, I'm trying to put together what the roster is going to look like based on things I've heard and the guys that have committed.
Yeah, I was thinking of this just the other day when we had Coach Sprinkle on last week. He talked about the challenge that he has trying to put a roster together, and felt like he basically threw out the challenge. I challenge you to find any other place that has to do what we're doing. And then it just struck me over the weekend, well, Wyoming actually has it probably harder.
Yeah, when he said that, I began thinking about Wyoming.
Wyoming has had a bigger and more substantial exodus than what's happened with Utah State.
Yeah. And the women's team has done it like 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
But still, even without him, saying, even if it's not true that he's
it doesn't
the only
diminish,
person,
right? It's the challenge that he still has. It's just there's somebody else in conference that's also dealing with the same issue, maybe even to a greater degree.
He has to replace 9 players, and basically all 9, 8 of those 9 players were at some point in the season key rotation players.
For Coach Linder?
No, for Utah
Coach
State.
Sprinkle. Yeah.
The top 6 scorers on the team. 8 of the top 9 guys in terms. Heck, I think it might just be the top 9 guys in terms of minutes. Or I guess 9 of the top 10 because Z Hamoda's in there. Shimon Zapala is like first outside of the main rotation guys in terms of minutes he got. So you're basically building an entire rotation out of nothing. And that's the challenge. And it's something I talked about in, there's a recent article I put out where I drew a little bit from that interview with Coach Sprinkle where there's the challenge of building the whole roster. And where in a lot of previous years, it's not atypical of Utah State to lose between 5 and 7 teams, or 5 and 7 guys. Like I looked over the last decade or so, and there were like 3 or 4 teams that lost 7 players. The trick is, just about every time, they were at the very least bringing somebody back from like the top 3 or 4 guys. They were bringing,
it was already on the roster.
Yeah, that returned for the next year. Like, pretty much, there was actually one comparison year. We can maybe get into that. Although we do need to take a break. Tell you what.
Yeah, we're overdue.
Pause that thought. We'll get back to it on the other side of this break. So we'll go ahead and take that, and we'll be back.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand, Neat and Brilliant Diamonds, is both beautiful and affordable with quarter-carat diamonds starting at $499. We have hundreds of sparkling diamonds at our integrity price guarantee with financing available. An investment for generations to come, Monday through Saturday 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Alpine Home Medical has been around for over 25 years. Can you believe that? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent. What keeps us coming to work every day? We're passionate about caring for you. From home and bathroom safety to transportation, mobility, recovery, oxygen, sleep, and more, come into any of our 10 locations today and let us take care of you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness
visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Looking for a job or career change? Plan to attend the Cache Valley Media Group Job Fair Thursday, April 20th at Castle Manor in Hyde Park from 11 to 6. Turn at 3900 North Highway 91 in Hyde Park. Be prepared to speak with businesses looking for employees now, like West Liberty Foods, Spartronics, Western Dairy Transport, Nexio Staffing, De La Rue, Authentication Solutions, and more. Better pay, better benefits, better job. Attend the Job Fair Thursday, April 20th from 11 to 6 at Castle Manor in Hyde Park.
Presented by the Cache Valley Media Group.
This is Nate Lamson with Valley Office Systems, your home team when local matters. Valley Office Systems is your local provider for all things office, copiers, printers, furniture, and document management. Proudly serving Cache Valley since 2007. Visit valleyofficesystems.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back, Full Court Press. Jason Walker and Eric Frandsen. Back in the house.
What's up?
4781 saying, what the heck, Eric? You left us high and dry with Ajay again, of all people. Bruh. So, yeah, we do have Eric back. He's just now getting back into the fold of as far as what's happening.
Yes.
You know. Did I tell you Blake Anderson got fired?
Don't even. I mean, the first time I left, there was a coaching change.
Yeah.
There were some player portal issues.
That's mostly it.
That was mostly it. Between a Coach Odom officially gone. I guess we knew that before I left.
I think we knew it before. Because I was saying I was expecting a new coach to be hired during that week, which barely.
That's true.
It happened the Friday while you were gone. But yeah, like we had
the announcement of the new coach and then the press conference of the new coach. That all happened while I was gone.
Yeah, we had the 3 players enter the transfer portal the Monday after you left. So that's what happened there. But yeah, now when you're gone, just more players in the portal, football, all kinds of stuff.
I am extremely nervous about the football season.
Yeah, that's it. Just getting more and more nervous. It's nuts.
Anybody who was, quote unquote, a star, and I shouldn't put it in quotations, they were stars. They were legitimate players. They were quality contributors. Just about everybody on defense who has been a quality contributor, who made big plays, will not be back in the fall.
Yeah, pretty much. You got Ike Larson. That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
And that doesn't make much of a defense. Defense can't be one guy. I said this yesterday. Of all the snaps played by defensive players last year, not starts or games played or whatever, just total snaps, 30% are returning.
Only 30%?
30%.
Oh, my gosh.
And if you exclude 2 players, Michael Anyanwu and Holly Motuapuaka, that number goes down to 19%. So, like, you see just how much was lost. So, it's pretty insane.
That's too many.
So, awkward moment for me. I teased something going into the break, and I can't remember what I was teasing, so I can't remember where to pick up off of. It was something about basketball. Somebody's going to have to remind me.
Yeah.
So I was like, we're going to talk about this on the other side.
Because then I was picking your brain about what happened when I was gone, so I got you off topic.
Yeah, I stopped thinking about it. Gosh. It was something.
It sounded really good.
It must not have been that important, though, if I didn't remember it.
It sounded like a good tease. Well, let's go to the texts, and maybe that will jumpstart your memory. 5338. Welcome to the Big 12. Now fork over your wallet for tickets. Signed, the athletic director of that school in Provo, which shall not be named.
Yeah, they're going to jack up ticket prices for the hype, and then the teams are going to be terrible, and so that they're trying to get season tickets now so that, you know, they
lock the product on the field.
Yeah, they lock everybody in. That's how they do it. They got to make tons of money.
Yeah. 8968. Gee, guys, if it was not for transfer portal, what would you guys have to talk about?
Nothing, really. I was saying that at the beginning of the show. Like, normally this, we used to be, I guess, the spring, summer months. would be spent either talking about baseball or speculating on basketball, football. And now it's year-round news.
Yeah, it's a roster makeover. And then now there's a new window for transfers for football. So.
And Utah State players taking advantage of it.
Yeah. 9315. Is there any other school this year that had so many players hit transfer portal than USU in basketball and football? What about in each individual sport, basketball and football?
Problem is that in terms of basketball, we mentioned Wyoming. They got hit really hard in basketball. In football, and the thing is with transfers, one thing I found is that when I go to sites that are supposed to be covering transfers and recruiting and things like that, they just don't have a whole lot of information on Utah State. The stuff I personally gather is better, and they're supposed to be these giant, networks that have all these connections and are hawking Twitter and everyone's profiles and knowing where everyone's going. And mind you, I'm a local here, so I'm supposed to know what's going on. But so in that vein, when I look at other schools, I don't know if those lists are accurate. I don't know if the Fresno State, if I look at who's transferring in and out of their school, is that an accurate list? It's hard to tell.
Yeah. But it's an interesting question when you look at if you were to combine football and basketball and try to look at an aggregate number. It's kind of tough. But as we've already said, Wyoming has had it worse than Utah State has. Just the compounding factor for USU was some transfers,
graduations,
and players who just decided they were done with basketball.
Yeah.
They had an extra year of eligibility, but just have chosen not to use it.
Yeah, well, you have 5 players into the transfer portal, and you combine that with, every team's going to have 2 to 4-ish guys graduate, run out of eligibility. So it's really just how many guys do you have enter the transfer portal? We've seen guys from other teams enter the transfer portal. New Mexico had I think, a few players. Nevada lost some. They lost Will Baker. They lost Darian Williams, the freshman of the year. Air Force, they lost what's his bucket to Syracuse.
Hydebreeder?
Yeah. In terms of volume, it's Utah State and Wyoming are kind of in a tier of their own where they lost 75% of their roster or more. But I think there's others that lost 3-4 guys to the transfer portal. So
it's a way of life in college basketball now.
Yeah, especially with the Mountain West, where it's a good conference, but there's still you can go up on the ladder, and there's a lot of good players in the Mountain West this year that decided we're going to move up. Hydebreeder goes to Syracuse. Darian Williams, what did he go to, Texas Tech, I think? I'm trying to remember where he committed earlier this week.
Ashworth goes to Creighton.
Yeah, Ashworth goes to Creighton. So, they're all moving up because they're really good players. So, there's a lot of guys that were lost from the Mountain West this season.
But it's also a good enough conference that it can attract players from major programs to rehabilitate their career or just find other opportunities.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. The Mountain West has seen plenty of guys come down from these major conference schools, and they'll become newcomer of the year. It certainly can happen. Utah State's going to hope it might happen with Isaac Johnson. I don't know if he's eligible for newcomer of the year since he redshirted last year.
It could happen with Mason Falslove.
Yeah, he'd be freshman of the year.
Yeah, it's true.
You can't be newcomer. You can't
be both.
Yeah, newcomer is you transferred from somewhere else. Freshman is, you're a freshman.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah, it's almost like it's in the name. It is weird that would happen that way.
A couple more quick texts. 4086 NCAA B-ball transfer portal as of today, 1,450 plus.
I've seen numbers higher than that, to be honest. Although I think the one I saw includes Division II, to where it's over 2,000.
Is that total volume of players who put their name or that are currently still in the portal?
Probably that just entered the portal. Probably not still. Although that number, again, based on other numbers I've seen, that could be the number of players still in. But I know Verbal Commits, I follow them, and they've got a transfer portal thing in that, 3 or 4 times a day they'll update the number. And that's just who has entered the portal at some point. A lot of them have now committed. But the number that they put out is over 2,000.
Nuts.
It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
There is a lot, and you average it out. So, like, if that number 2,000 is just Division I players, which I'm not sure it is, that's like divided by 368 teams, I think, give or take. How many is that per team? Like, no one's untouched by the transfer portal. And sadly, a lot of those players, I think like half, aren't going to end up on like a Division I roster.
More on that. Several more texts coming through. We do need to take another time out. We were late on our first one, so we're kind of caught up on our second one. But if you want to chime in, love to hear from you. 435-339-0321.
Spring is here, which means more driving and future vacations. Make sure you don't forget your car as you move about your busy life. This is Dustin with Valvoline Instant Oil Change in Logan. More driving means more wear and tear for your vehicle. Come in to Valvoline Instant Oil Change to get it serviced. We'll have you in and out quickly, making sure your ride is ready for whatever life brings you. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, 695 North Main in Logan, across from Angie's.
Spring has sprung and so have the deals at Murdoch Hyundai. Ready for a season of adventure? Get behind the wheel of a brand new car during our spring sales event.
Right now, receive 0% for 4 years on a new 2023 Tucson or Santa Fe.
And every new Hyundai comes with America's Best Warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, and owner's assurance.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Hyundai, in Logan, Linden, and Murray, and online at murdochhyundai.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 5/1/23.
Your local Spence's Pharmacy at 550 East 1400 North is supporting the National Prescription Take-Back Day 1 day early. Spence's Pharmacy has teamed up with local law enforcement to dispose of any form of medication. Please bring your expired or leftover medication to Spence's Pharmacy between the hours of 10 and 2 p.m. this Friday, April 21st. Keeping your home safe means disposing of any prescription or over-the-counter medications responsibly. And thank you for making Cache Valley and your home a safer place.
As a small business, achieving your financial goals and ambitions can be a steep and rocky mountain to climb. This is Brett Green, president of Cache Valley Bank. To conquer this mountain and achieve your goals, it takes planning, hard work, and discipline. At Cache Valley Bank, we have the resources, expertise, and flexibility to help you scale your way to success. Give us a call. Let's work together and climb the mountains that await. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Two Pros and a Cup of Joe.
We're getting back into it.
By the way, speaking of jacked, Will Levis.
He got jacked. Yeah, he did get ripped up. It took me back to meeting when the Tampa Bay Bucks to work me out. And they did not like the fact that I was like built like that. That big, yeah. It's a stigma that exists in the NFL.
Two Pros, LeVar Arrington, Brady Quinn, and a Cup of Joe, Jonas Knox.
Weekday mornings from 4 to 7 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Welcome back, Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen. First hour well in progress. I'm still trying to remember the thing I teased at the end of the first segment. I may have to go back and listen to the recording in the middle of middle of these 2 hours so I can remember what I was talking about.
It's just a really long tease.
Yeah, I was about to. It was almost like at the end of the first hour last time we had Jim Lobb, and he was about to tell a story, and I was like, it was the end of the hour, so we have to cut off at a specific time. And I was like, I told him, like, you got like 50 seconds. He was like, oh, I can't tell a story now because he didn't have enough time. And I was like, oh, the tease for, I guess, the next time we have Jim Lobb on the show, because he's obviously a multi-time participant on the Full Court Press. So we'll have to see sometime in the future. I don't know if he'll remember that he was about to tell that story then. I'll have to see if I can remember what I was talking about. But for now, we can go back to our text line if you want to jump in, 435-339-0321. Although I guess a couple of bits of news that I just saw coming over the line. For one, the Utah Royals, who are coming back for the NWSL, they have a new head coach, Amy Rodriguez. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody.
Nope.
She was on the 2015 World Cup winning team.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
And she's played in the NWSL, so former player.
Is this her first time in coaching?
I think so. Because the report I was looking at doesn't mention previous coaching experience. So.
Okay.
It's exciting to get the Royals back. I was sad when they left. Then we can get them back. We can have two soccer franchises here. And then Jean Morant's not going to be available. I think they're playing the Lakers tonight. The Grizzlies are.
Yes. That will tip off at 5:30 on TNT.
So in the middle of our show, or in the middle of our second hour of our show.
Yeah. Giannis Antetokounmpo has been upgraded to questionable, but again, he's still questionable.
Yeah, that's what, up from doubtful, I guess.
Yeah.
I never liked the vagueness of these, like doubtful, questionable, probable, like.
Well, you hear them report on it. He's been upgraded. To questionable. Oh. That still doesn't sound very promising.
No. And me and Ajay had quite a debate about charges since talking about Jean Morant and Giannis, since they both went down basically the same way. But it's maybe I should bring that up with you, but whether or not you think charges should be illegal or, have something done so that people aren't just deliberately trying to draw charges all the time. It's an interesting thought.
It is an interesting thought. What else do? Just get out of the way?
Play defense? Challenge the shot? If you can get there
they rub up against you and go at you.
If you can get there before them to draw a charge, you can get there before them to play defense. Like, what does Rudy Gobert do? He gets in front of them and he tries to block the shot. True. So, like, play defense.
But if you're an offensive player and you still just want to go through them, the defender's still going to be called for a foul.
Well, if they're just crashing into the defender, you just don't call a foul on anybody. If you just go up and play defense. The key is, instead of just going up and just standing in front of them and then falling over and waiting for contact and not doing anything else other than being a traffic cone, the point is for you to be actively playing defense. And so that's the whole thing with like verticality. If you jump up in the air and you maintain verticality, it's not a foul on you.
But if you're getting to that spot to cut off their path to the basket, you are playing defense. You're cutting off their access.
You're cutting off by just standing there and drawing a foul. You're not playing defense. You're just there. Hi, I'm here. Run into me so you commit a turnover.
I'm preventing you from getting a clean look at the basket.
Not really. You're not preventing them from getting a look at the basket. You're preventing them from keeping the ball by just trying to draw a foul.
Isn't that good defense?
You're not playing it. Sadly, it kind of is, but it's stupid. You're foregoing playing defense in the name of drawing a foul. It's just as stupid as offensive players foul hunting. They're not attempting a shot. They're ripping through somebody's arm and drawing a foul. Drawing a charge is just the defensive version of that. Is it smart? Yes, it is smart. And by the rules as they are now, you should do it. But we've seen, we just had a conversation about Rylan Jones. He's not going to play basketball potentially anymore because he always tried to draw charges, and he got like 3 concussions because of it. And because that's how he chose to play defense at times, his basketball career may end early. John Morant, he's going to miss a game because he jacked up his hand. Because Anthony Davis, who is fully capable of defending a 6'3" guard, Anthony Davis, who's 6'11" with like a 7'6" wingspan, decided instead of actually playing defense, I'm going to draw a charge on a guy that I'm a foot taller than.
Right, because you want to cut off his access to the lane. Otherwise, we're going to develop into what we saw in the All-Star game, a glorified layup line. I mean, there's nothing you could do to stop somebody who's going downhill.
You can. He got to the spot before Jean Morant. And I actually can't remember if it was actually called a charge. I think it was. Yeah, it was called a charge. But he beat him to the spot. So he has cut off his access. Now, try and block the shot. And if Jean Morant, crashes to the rim, you don't get called for a foul because you've maintained your spot and maintained your verticality. And you defend the shot, he misses it, you get the rebound. You play defense. You're still cutting him off, but instead of being cheap and saying, I'm just going to draw a foul, I'm not actually going to play defense, I'm just going to draw a foul, you're actually playing defense.
We got a bunch of texts coming through on this. We'll get to those. We do need to take another time out, though. Short on time here in the Full Court Press. 435-339-0321 if you want to continue to chime in.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
Engagement season is in full swing, and Jarek's Fine Jewelry has been helping hundreds of couples find the perfect ring. If you are getting engaged, you have to come browse our collections. Sometimes you may find the perfect ring in just a minute, or we can help you custom create your own design. Oh, and with Mother's Day almost here, talk to us about designing the perfect mother's ring.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
Hi, this is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. At White Pine, we value compassion, integrity, and service. We are committed to serving you and treating your family as our family. We will be here when you need us most, to listen, to help, and to provide exactly what your circumstances require. At White Pine, we promise to dedicate our time and attention to you and your family. We invite you to come by and meet us. We're confident you'll feel a difference.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. My wife and I were laughing the other day because she read an article about things not to buy online. The first thing was prom dresses. Dresses advertised versus dresses delivered. Needless to say, what people thought they were getting is not what they got. It's much the same with mattresses. Almost always, buying a mattress online ends in buyers being let down. At My Mattress, we try to always exceed expectations. Lower prices than online, and better beds. Only at My Mattress.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Final segment of the first hour in the Full Court Press. We're getting all into a discussion. Me and Ajay had like almost a heated discussion on this. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday. No, it was Monday. Where I think charges, they need to find a way to just get rid of them in some way. Basically, my idea that I've come up with, and it's not a perfect decision at the perfect solution at the moment. Basically, just you have the charge circle, and just have the paint be the charge circle, where you can't draw a charge in the paint. Because they still want to call offensive fouls for push-offs and things like that. And maybe you can still call those in the paint anyway, but basically just no drawing charges in the paint. Because it's stupid. And it's dangerous. And like I said, it's not playing defense. That's the thing I have is people say, oh, you're playing defense, but you're not.
So how would you define playing defense then? Is it playing defense like challenging or stopping the offensive player from doing what he wants to do?
Yeah.
Which is ultimately getting to the basket and scoring a bucket?
Yeah, but the thing is when you just stand there to draw a foul, you're not playing defense. You're just like cheating the system. You're playing the system.
You're preventing the player from doing what he wants to do and getting to the basket.
Yeah, but when look on offense, when they try and, the point is to get the ball in the bucket. And you're technically doing that when you go foul hunting, but do we like it? No, we think it's cheap. We think it's, you're not actually playing the game of basketball. You're just foul hunting. We've worked against that. Try to not let offensive players do that. And I want to remove the defensive version of that, where they're saying, I'm not actually going to play defense. I'm not actually going to put in the work to contest a shot, to stay in front of my man, to play proper help defense. I'm just going to stand here and draw a foul. That's like I said, you're not actually playing defense. Even though at the moment it is a sound strategy, but I think it's stupid, and I don't think it should be part of the game. Because it's not only, cheesy, it's dangerous. And I've thought that long before we had 2 stars get injured on those kind of plays. Like, I've thought this way for a while. I've thought that charges should be curtailed because of just how prevalent they are, how dangerous they are. And, this week just was a little convenient for me because it suddenly rose to the forefront because apparently people only think about things when it impacts star players.
More on that. We got a lot more of your texts that have come in on this. We will get to those and a few on other topics as well. Keep them coming. 435-339-0321. Updates on what was going on in the NBA playoffs. There's a notable NBA player who's going to be missing some time. So we'll talk about all that coming up next hour. Stick around here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Throughout his 11-year career, Draymond Green has become the NBA's most fascinating villain. He's a 4-time All-Star, not afraid to get his hands dirty, talk dirty, and has a tendency to be even more outspoken off the court. But although Draymond is more than just an agitator, his most memorable moment may have come when he was suspended for Game 5 of the 2016 NBA Finals. His absence helped spark an improbable 3-1 comeback from LeBron and the Cavaliers. The Warriors are in a far different spot this season, but history repeated itself yesterday after it was announced the league would suspend him for the team's Game 3 matchup with the Kings. Green isn't the player he was in 2016, and the Warriors aren't that team either. And down 0-2, they could use any advantage they can get. And with the team now without their spiritual leader and defensive specialist, a first-round exit is starting to look like a real possibility for the NBA's defending champs. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.